Hello and welcome into the Addison the 35th podcast. I'm your host for this Cubs episode, Ryan Herrera. And as we sit here on Sunday, May 11th, the end of Mother's Day, the Cubs coming off a series loss in New York. Not the best week for the Cubs, of course. They started off with a series against the Giants at home, had a 9-2 win, and then a 14-5 loss and a 3-1 loss to drop that series. They go out to Queens to face the Mets. Start off with a 7-2 loss on Friday, win 6-5 on Saturday, and we'll talk about that one in a second, and then drop the series finale 6-2. So back-to-back series losses. Um, and I bet that there are definitely people out there that are getting flashbacks to the last couple of Mays, which have been points in the Cubs season that have work to sink their seasons in a way, right? Like in 2023, Cubs struggled throughout May and then even into the beginning of June. And they worked themselves out of it, but it took a lot of energy, a lot of energy and just a lot of work to get out of the hole they dug themselves in with that May, and ultimately ran out of gas there towards the end of the season as a whole, right? The different parts of the lineup, the rotation, the bullpen, like different places definitely started to run out of gas, and then they ended up missing the playoffs that year when they had pretty high playoff odds early on in September that year. And then last year, we know May and June were really rough for the Cubs, dug themselves another big hole that they ultimately didn't get themselves out of. Was it 83 wins back to back seasons, both years, 83 wins. So I understand if people are getting flashbacks and maybe some nervousness coming from two series losses here in early May, the first third of May or so. But I do need to. I feel like it needs to be said, or to maybe not let those worries seep in too much. You look at the Giants; they end Sunday today, 24-17. They are third in the National League West, but we know that's a powerhouse of a division, and they would be a wild card team right now if the playoffs started tomorrow. If the season ended today, they would be a playoff team. They'd be a wild card team. And then you got the Mets, who are 26-15, and they lead the National League East. I believe they're tied for the second best record in baseball, and that's like a game behind the Dodgers or something like that. Like they're right up there near the top of the league. So I would say no. I would say there's no shame in dropping a couple series to two postseason teams in early May. Early going into mid May. Obviously, you want to win every series if you're the Cubs. If you're Cubs fans, like you keep stacking series wins on series wins, even if it's just two, winning two out of three rather than sweeping. Like you're going to end up with a really good record here. The Cubs dropped two in a row here, but they didn't get swept. They lost two games out of three in both series. But again, against two good teams, two really good teams, two playoff caliber teams, and teams that would be in the postseason if we were talking about the postseason ending or starting tomorrow. So I honestly say like there shouldn't be a ton of nervousness or worry about dropping a couple of series to those two teams, especially with one coming on the road and with one of them being one of your top pitching prospects making their debut, which again we'll talk about in a second. But here, as we end Sunday, the Cubs are 23-18. They're first in the National League Central. But those Cardinals are creeping up. They are one game behind the Cubs right now in the division. The Brewers are 3 games back. The Reds are 3.5 games back, and then the Pirates are a lot further down at 9 games back. So Cubs are still in first place. They've been in first place for has it been basically the entire season, right? Like they've been in first place for a while here. Some of those teams are obviously pretty close, and you need to see the Cubs start to. It doesn't have to happen in 1 week, but just figure out how to start putting some space in between those teams. But they are still in the driver's seat right now. They are still in first place. They, in a sense, control their own destiny. There's a lot of baseball left to play, but they are in that spot where we're about a quarter of the way through the season. They're in first place, and they do have a relatively easy stretch of games coming up compared to what they faced in April and even this first part of May. So, again, we'll get to that in a little bit, but I do want to talk about Saturday, and that is Cade Horton, the Cubs' top pitching prospect, one of the best pitching prospects and just prospects in Major League Baseball, making his Major League debut. I mean, as honestly, as soon as Shota Imanaga went down and went on the injured list last week, kind of felt like it was going that way, right? And there was Chris Flexen was a potential option, but then he pitched a couple games in a row out of the bullpen, and seemed like maybe that wasn't where they were going to go. Um, Jordan Wicks is obviously on the 40 man, but he had his struggles in AAA. Obviously, he had his struggles in a couple of big league appearances this year. That one against the Diamondbacks at home obviously sticks out. Um, but and then I think I want to say on Wednesday, he ended up throwing 5 innings, started for Iowa, and then threw 5 innings. So it was kind of got to the point where like all signs were pointing to Cade Horton making his major league debut. He didn't start that game. The Cubs used an opener, but he did come in the second inning. And overall, it was good. It was good. Overall, it was pretty impressive to see what he came up and did against a really tough lineup. Again, one of the best teams record wise in the major leagues right now. Going up against the Mets, he got the win in his first outing in the major leagues. 4 innings pitched, 4 hits, 3 runs, all were earned, no walks, 5 strikeouts, and then 1 home run. That home run being a home run in the bottom of the fourth to Brett Beatty. It was a sweeper. Brett Beatty, lefty, a sweeper that just probably just caught too much of the plate, obviously, or maybe not. It didn't maybe end. It didn't end in the heart of the plate, but maybe the way it comes into a lefty just over the plate a little bit too long and too much. And Beatty put a good swing on it. It was one of those home runs where, according to Statcast, would have only left 13 out of 30 ballparks, but a home run nonetheless. But outside of that, I mean, he looked really good. I mean, he led with the four seam in AAA. The four seamer for him averaged 95.8 miles per hour. And then in that first start, I think he topped out at 96.9 miles per hour and then averaged 95.3. So right there with where he's pretty much been in the minor leagues, in a minor league season this season, that he looked really good. He overall looked really good and kind of was showing that he was going to keep dominating AAA. He also threw 27, so he threw 77 overall pitches. 45 were the four seamer, 27 sweepers, which ended up getting 5 whiffs on 14 swings. He threw 4 curveballs, got a single whiff on just 3 swings. He did throw 1 changeup, and I want to talk about that one obviously in a second. The Mets put 11 balls in play on him. 6 were a hard hit, so a little bit of a higher hard hit rate there. 4 of those were over 100 miles per hour. There was a single, a line out, and 2 more singles mixed in there, but also got some weak contact. Didn't let all of that kind of he didn't fall. The wheels didn't fall off during that. He was able to kind of keep things on track. Again, I mentioned the home run, but outside of that, that was all the damage on the scoreboard that was done to him. And he threw that 1 changeup, right? He got facing Soto in the 5th. I want to say it was Francisco Lindor was stealing second on the pitch. It was the only changeup he threw in that game. And I think, if I'm remembering the stories correctly, coming out from New York, him telling reporters that it was kind of a point where I think he shook off Miguel Amaya for whatever pitch had been called. Wanted to go with the changeup, hadn't thrown a changeup yet. And you're going up against, in your major league debut, going up against Juan Soto, who may not be he's still having a really good year at the plate. I think because he's not putting up like near Aaron Judge type numbers, there's been some disappointment. I don't see it that way. I think he's still having a really good year, and he's obviously overall generally one of the best hitters on the planet. So Cade Horton goes up, throws a changeup, the only changeup he threw in his time on the mound on Saturday, and gets Juan Soto to swing and miss for the strikeout. And like, I know there was that weird part where people or there was some thought that he fouled the ball off, and then ultimately was called for a strikeout. And I think that was a very impressive, like, kind of showed his moxie on the mound, right? If you're talking about a guy who just knows what he wants to do, is willing to shake off the catcher in his major league debut and go at one of the best hitters on the planet with his changeup, a pitch he hadn't thrown yet. There's moxie there. That's impressive. And obviously the result, like, it worked. So you're happy about the result in a sense, but like you're also impressed by, again, a guy who's willing to go and stick with what he feels is best, willing to shake off the catcher and go at a guy with a pitch he just hadn't thrown all day or all night, but felt like in that situation he could it could get the job done. He could throw one that would get the job done, and it did. And that's you know that's huge to see for a guy in his first major league outing. Just the confidence, and now getting the confirmation, I would say, that his stuff plays in the big leagues. His stuff plays at the big league level against big league hitters, against some of the best big league hitters in Major League Baseball. And so overall, again, his stat line, three runs, all earned, like whatever, all in all, like an impressive showing from Cade Horton to go out there on the road, prime time. It was a Fox broadcast with national television against the Mets, one of the best teams in baseball, and to go out there and get the job done. Right, he got the W, it kept his team ahead, and got the job done, and that's good to see when you're talking about a guy who I think he made 6 starts so far in AAA, but there was a shoulder injury for him last year that basically ended. I think he ended. I don't think he pitched after the end of May. I don't think from June on he pitched at all in AAA games. And even prior to that, once he got promoted to AAA, just hadn't looked like his best self. But then comes back this season, pretty much dominated AAA, and then comes up and has a good first outing in the big leagues. Right, again, not a start, but comes in and gets the job done and gets his team the W. So all in all, good things from Cade Horton. And what we're looking at of Shota Imanaga went down. Was that last Sunday? Sunday went down in Milwaukee, and then goes on the injured list the next day with the left hamstring strain. I believe what we're hearing is mild, and he's still going to be evaluated coming up. So like they're going to continue to kind of evaluate him and see how he progresses in recovery and stuff like that. But late May is probably the earliest we're looking at Shota Imanaga return, if not going into June. So it feels like Cade Horton's going to get some runway here on the Cubs big league roster. My thought is that that's going to come in the rotation. There was a spot there for an opener against the top of that Mets lineup that is daunting, of course. It was a good spot to use an opener, but I would say my thought is moving forward, like Cade Horton probably going to get starts, especially with some of the teams that are coming up going to be starting for the Cubs. And so this was a good starting point for that moving forward. And we'll kind of see where it goes, right? Like, I mean, Javier Assad's another starting option, but he suffered another left oblique strain while on a rehab assignment. So he's not going to be back till I think June is the expectation, maybe at the earliest, right? So there's going to be some runway here for Cade Horton, and we'll see how everything goes with him. But it seems like he's gonna get some runway here on the big league roster, and going out and doing what he did Saturday is a really good start to his major league career and moving forward, and just getting that comfortability, getting that confidence, kind of that experience. Like that's all going to do wonders for him, regardless of how long he's actually on the big league team. Especially when we talk about when Shota Imanaga does come back, whether he remains on the team at that point or he goes back down to AAA or whatever happens. Like, this is a good starting point for him as he gets going in his big league career. So props to Cade Horton. Congrats to Cade Horton. And, I'm looking forward to seeing what he does here. Is the Cubs' top pitching prospect for a reason, probably the most hyped pitching prospect debut since, Mark Pryor, 20-some years ago. So props to him. Congrats to him. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next. Before we move on to the next topic here, I do need to point out how good Matthew Boyd's been. He went out and had another good start in New York today, Sunday. I believe it was 6 innings, 2 earned runs, and he has a 2.78 ERA through 8 starts. That's 23rd best 23rd best ERA in baseball among qualified pitchers. But it's not just that. It's doing that against here are the teams he started against his first 8 starts. He had at Arizona, against the Padres at home, in Los Angeles against the Dodgers, in San Diego, against the Dodgers at home, in Pittsburgh, against the Giants at home, and then obviously today against the Mets on the road. I mean, what more can you say for a guy? The Cubs went out and got him on a 2-year, $29 million deal. And I mean, I know at the time, even I was kind of saying like, it felt like the Cubs should have taken a bigger swing on some of the pitchers that were out there. I know it wasn't the greatest starting pitching class out there, but it felt like they could have taken a bigger swing. I mean, they weren't even in on Corbin Burns, who was the top arm on the market, if I'm not mistaken. But they went and identified Matthew Boyd, who he had his own. It was elbow surgery. I think it was Tommy John, but like he came back with the Guardians like late in the season after a long recovery, and he looked good, but it wasn't a lot of appearances. I don't remember exactly how many. I want to say it was like 8 total starts or something like that, including some postseason. But he looked good. Just not it wasn't a huge sample size, but they identified him as a guy, got him on a 2-year deal, and right now he's stepping up majorly. When you're talking about Shota's down, Assad's been out throughout the year so far. Justin Steele's done for the year. Him stepping up and doing what he's done has been massive for this team when you're talking about, again, them getting to the postseason, ending the postseason drought of a few years here, bringing October baseball back to Wrigley. They need guys to step up. They need guys to outperform expectations and projections. And I would say that Matthew Boyd is one of them. I think right now, 8 starts into his season, he is outperforming what we all could have expected out of him. He's giving the Cubs better than they could have asked for. And another one where we'll kind of see where things go. We'll see how long he can keep it up. But he has done really well, and he's done it against some really good lineups. And I think that deserves some more praise from him. And obviously a shout out from me here on the Addison the 35th podcast. So yeah, Matthew Boyd doing a lot of good things. Cade Horton's up now. So we'll kind of see how this rotation continues to evolve and progress. Ben Brown's in there, Conray's in there, Jameson Tyon's in there. And we'll see how things kind of progress from here with this rotation while they wait for Imanaga and Assad to get healthy and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, Matthew Boyd, congrats on a great start, and we'll kind of see where that goes from here with him from here. Jumping on to the next topic, I got it on the rundown that says closer conundrum because the Cubs have one right now. I mean, they didn't. Ryan Presley went into the season as the closer. I know Craig Counsell likes to say, just calls them out-getters. He does like to use some of his high leverage arms in different high leverage situations, right? Doesn't always mean the 7th or the 8th or whatever. But Ryan Presley had been operating as the team's closer. I will say he had some results-wise, some poor outings earlier in the year, but he did have a stretch of 10 straight outings with no runs allowed. So he was on a nice stretch there, but the issue was that he just wasn't getting much swing and miss. He wasn't missing a lot of bats, wasn't getting a lot of strikeouts. Here, entering Sunday, he had a 16.4% whiff rate, which was in a 3rd percentile in baseball. So obviously very low. He had a 9% strikeout rate, which is in the 1st percentile. A little bit better when it came to chase rate, 30th percentile with a 25.4% rate. Still not good, right? Still well below average. And he was getting hit around pretty hard too. He had a 54.9% hard hit rate, which is in the 2nd percentile. So, and that would, like, in a way, was like, if you're getting the results, something you're doing is working. But there are always those underlying metrics that make that if you're monitoring those and you're seeing those, you do kind of get the feeling of when is it going to kind of blow up? When is this going to lead to, when is this lack of swing and miss, the hard hits? When is this going to lead to an outing that really opens your eyes and says, like there is a problem here. And that's what we saw on Tuesday when Presley entered that game in the top of the 11th against the Giants. It was tied 5-5. He ended up being charged with 9 runs in the inning, 8 earned. Again, it was a tie game, 8 earned runs, 9 runs overall, and didn't record an out. Where he gave up 5 hits and a walk in that frame. He ended up facing 8 batters, right? Yeah, 8 batters. Started off with a runner on second. He gave up a double, a single. There was a bunt that they didn't get the out, a walk, a hit by pitch, a single, a single, a single. And then he came out and Caleb Thielbar let 2 more runners score. But it was just one of those where when you're not, I think that's what we always kind of think about when we talk about closers and your high leverage guys. And it's like some guys can get things done for a long. I mean, Ryan Presley is someone that's gotten things done, right? But like some guys can get things done for a while without that kind of swing and miss. But if you are getting swings and miss to a level where you're just getting them at a high level, you just kind of eliminate the chances that balls are going to fall, balls are going to find grass, bloops are going to fall in, right? Like if you're not striking people out, that means a lot of guys are putting balls in play, and that just runs the risk for bad luck to happen, or just ball gets up the middle, the ball gets through the hole again, a bloop single into the outfield, right, or a swinging bunt that just no one can get to in time to get a guy at first base. Like all kinds of things can happen when you're not striking people out and guys are putting balls in play. And I think that's kind of what we saw with Presley there. I mean, we've kind of seen that with Presley a little bit, but definitely there that top of the 11th on Tuesday. And it went downhill pretty fast. And, talking to Tommy Hotovy, Cubs pitching coach on Wednesday, made it clear that they're not going to avoid Presley in those spots. Like they're not removing him from save opportunity chances, right? He did mention like they are willing to get him work in non-high leverage innings, and there was he did pitch in the 6th inning on Friday when the Cubs were already down 6-1. It was a scoreless inning. He did give up a hit and a walk, but did get a strikeout as well. So there's one example. But even Hotovy was kind of saying that they were already working towards if Presley didn't pitch Tuesday, he was definitely going to pitch Wednesday, just no matter where he was, because that stems from he had that knee issue. He has knee drained at one point. I want to say that he was unavailable for the Dodgers series at Wrigley Field. That was like the 22nd and 23rd of April, something like that. And I want to say it was around then when he got his knee drained and was unavailable for a few games. And while he was dealing with the knee stuff, when he had a drain, like Tommy said that, he just kind of lost opportunities for work, for getting that kind of in between work. Obviously, when you're dealing with an injury and you have to get treatment on it and stuff like that, like you're losing time to get kind of that in between out of game work. And and then there just wasn't a lot of opportunities for him to get that kind of work in games. There was a lot of blowouts there. I think there might have been a save or two opportunity when he wasn't available because of the knee stuff. But then there was a lot of blowouts. So there just weren't a lot of opportunities for him to get in the game in those kind of situations that they wanted him to be in. I look back on it, and he pitched against the Diamondbacks on April 20th. And then he didn't pitch again for a week. He pitched the 27th of April, pitched May 1st, and then pitched May 6th. That again last Tuesday. And then obviously he pitched Friday, but within a 16-day stretch, he pitched 3 times, and that's it's just not enough. And that's kind of something that Tommy Hotovy kind of said, is that he just didn't have a lot of opportunities to work after. Like he's feeling good with the knee issue now, with the knee thing now. He feels great physically, but he just lost a lot of opportunities to work because of the time missed. Getting treatment and figuring out and getting that knee healthy, and then also just with the lack of those kind of high leverage save opportunities, just not a lot of time for work. And that's something that the Cubs are figuring out how to get that, how to get him back. Because one thing that Hadavi also said is that um, they did see some kind of mechanical issues there, that were maybe giving hitters more time to see the ball, right? Or didn't say it said like made it clearly what they didn't think he was tipping pitches, like they're on top of that kind of stuff, but that they're mechanical stuff that maybe he's opening up a little too fast or a little too wide, and it gives hitters more time to see the ball. And then at that point, they're just whether they really like know what's happening or are just subconsciously or consciously seeing that they're having more time to see the ball, which gives them more time to make swing decisions and all that kind of stuff. So, um, Tommy said that they are still working on like now that he's healthy. Like, and there's another part of it where like when you are pitching and you're not 100%, like you a lot of guys, and it's not just Presley, a lot of guys do or can develop bad habits when it comes to mechanics, stuff like that, to kind of compensate for things. And I think part of the work that they're trying to get Presley now is geared towards kind of working those things back and getting back into the good habits that he had as a pitcher. We'll see. We'll see what happens with Presley here. I This is kind of my transition to like, again, I mentioned he pitched in that sixth inning on Friday, and then on Saturday, poor Hodge got the save opportunity. He did a good job. One inning, no hits, no runs, a walk, and no strikeouts, but only the one walk. He faced Jeff McNeil, who I believe was pinch hitting there in that inning, and then Francisco Lindor, and then Juan Soto. So two two really really good hitters, two of the best hitters in baseball. He walked Jeff McNeil to start off that inning, but then got Lindor, hit a 1-6-3 double play, hit it back to him, and then Hodge, good throw over to to second base to Dansby Swanson over there to get the first out, completes it for the double play, and then gets a 4-3 ground out from Juan Soto. So he locked down that save opportunity, and so you're that's already the kind of first instance of like, okay, is Porter Hodge the closer now? Like, how is that working? But then he goes out Sunday, gets the bottom of the eighth in a 2-2 game. He only he only gets one out, a third of an inning pitched, three hits, charged for 3 runs, all earned, no walks, no strikeouts, and then a home run. This was Francisco Lindor led off with a home run. Juan Soto lined out to left field. And then Pete Alonso hits a double. Mark Vientos knocks him in with a single, and then Gavin Hollowell took over from there. Um, that Francisco Lindor sweeper, or that's Francisco Lindor home run, the lead off the inning, was on a sweeper that was just pretty much in the middle of the plate, and you're not going to be able to most times you're not going to be able to get away with that against a guy like Lindor. Even I mean, honestly, against like that Cade Horton sweeper to Brett Beatty. Brett Beatty's not on Francisco Lindor's level, and one of those pitches that you're probably not going to get away with too much at the big league level. And same thing with Hodge, right? Like he left one that Lindor could drive, and Lindor took advantage of it. There was a Soto lineup, and Alonso's double, Pete Alonso's double, was on a a sweeper low, below the zone. Honestly, was a better piece of hitting from Pete Alonso, who we know is a really good hitter, and is having a really good season for himself. But so it wasn't a bad location from Hodge, just a better piece of hitting. But then Mark Ventos's RBI single was a four seam that was basically smack dab in the middle. Another pitch that you can't throw. You're not going to get away with it very often. And Mark Vientos made him pay on that one. So all this is to say that it seems like Hodge may get more save opportunities. I don't think he's anointed the closer, and definitely Sunday isn't one of those innings where you're like, this guy, it's not one of those that, of course, it's not one of those that like cements him as the team's closer, right? Like did a good job in the save opportunity on Saturday, didn't do as good of a job in a tie game and a high leverage opportunity on Sunday. So I think this is kind of a wait and see, or just something that you're monitoring with this team here. Um, Presley, I don't know when, like, again, uh, Hadavi said that they're not going to avoid Presley in those big situations, but it remains to be seen when he's going to get those another chance for a save opportunity. Porter Hodge got that one on Saturday. He seems like the next in line to get the bulk of the save opportunities. If they're making a switch for the guy that gets the bulk of those, he seems like the next in line. But you do have other options like Daniel Palencia's done a really good job, a 1.54 ERA in 10 games here. It seems like he's earning more opportunities, taking advantage of them. And maybe he's got premium velocity, nice stuff. Like he's a guy that if he can't kind of keeps that kind of stuff up, he's definitely a guy that seems he could start earning more of those high leverage opportunities. I'm not saying someone like Drew Pomeranz is that level, but he hasn't let up a run in 7 games with the Cubs so far. Um, you know, Caleb Thielbar has definitely looked better. Another guy I don't think is going to be that uh, super high leverage guy for him, but a guy who's done a better job for him more recently and getting them in through situations, left-handed pockets, that kind of stuff. Julian Merriweather does have a 4.11 ERA, but he's got the velo, he's got the nice sweeper or slider. I don't exactly remember what they call his pitch, but they have options there. But it seems like it's not going to be. And this is kind of how we felt about it even going into the season, that even though Presley was operating as the closer, it just didn't seem like they had a clear cut, like great high leverage, like number one high leverage option, right? It just didn't seem like the Cubs have that. They don't have a Josh Hader or Edwin Diaz or whoever the premium closers are, the all-star closers. The Cubs didn't have that. Presley was getting the bulk of those opportunities through the first month of the year. But a guy like Porter Hodge could definitely get some save opportunities. I mentioned some other names who could get them. It seems like it's a job it's definitely not anyone's clear like this guy has earned it. He is the closer kind of job. Even though Porter Hodge has pitched pretty well outside of Saturday or outside of Sunday, and then that game against the Diamondbacks at home, that crazy back and forth game. Outside of those 2 games, he's done a great job. But I don't think you're sitting here and saying like Porter Hodge is a clear cut all star closer yet. Like he's got potential. He's got really good velocity. He's got great stuff. Like he could get there. Right? I'm not saying he can't, but I don't think he's there yet. And so it feels like whereas overall the bullpen has definitely been a spot where Craig Counsell has had to do a pretty good job of managing and changing things up game to game and giving guys different pockets and that kind of stuff. I don't think the closer position is set, even if Hodge is getting the bulk of the opportunities moving forward over Presley and until Presley can start to figure some things out. I don't think it's absolutely a position where like Porter Hodge is your closer. He's only pitching in the 9th inning in save situation. I don't think it's at that level. I mean, you saw it today. Porter Hodge pitched in a non-save situation. It was just the most high leverage spot in the game. And that's when they put him in. So I do kind of think that that's how the bullpen operates here moving forward until, I mean, they have good options, but I don't necessarily see this being a spot right now. And maybe who knows how long that lasts, but just a spot right now where there's one guy who's the closer and all he's doing is closing. I don't think they really have that right now. But we'll see. I mean, it's kind of a big reason why they brought in Craig Counsell. Craig Counsell is known as a guy that's very good at managing a bullpen as a manager. That's part of it. That's obviously his job description, but it's part of why they gave him the contract that they gave him. This is what Craig Counsell's been known to be good at, and this is what he's going to have to be good at for this Cubs team to kind of keep things on track and moving in the right direction. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But I guess I would say right now I do think Porter Hodge is going to get the bulk of those opportunities for the foreseeable future until we really start seeing Ryan Presley. If it's in low leverage innings or if it's high leverage, but just not safe situations, like you need to see progress and improvement from him before you start saying like, okay, he's back and he's closing games. I think for now, Hodge seems like a guy that's going to get the bulk of those opportunities as long as it makes sense in the game. Before we get out, so that was obviously a pitching heavy kind of episode. Cade Horton debut, closer conundrum, but I do want to mention some injury updates. I already mentioned Shota actually and Javier Assad. So those guys are on the mend, but it might be it might honestly be June until you see either of them. The other guy is Ian Happ, who I believe Craig Counsell would have told reporters over the weekend that he missed the last two games with oblique discomfort, and it happened in his first at bat on Friday. Believe he was able to finish out that game, then missed the next two games. So the report from New York today was that he hit in the cage Sunday, or he was going to hit in the cage Sunday, and so we'll kind of see if he's ready to go for the Marlins series. Like when you're talking about oblique stuff, if a guy's good to hit in the cage, feels like you're in a good spot. So we'll see if he's ready to go Monday for the start of that Marlins series. But if not, it doesn't seem, I guess, right now like it's like you're looking at an IL stint for Ian Happ. We'll see where he's at as we get going into this next series, which again, if you're looking for watching on the YouTube page, the last topic is you're up next. The Cubs start a series with the Marlins at Wrigley Field. You have Colin Ray on Monday going up against Cal Quantrill. On Tuesday, it's Ben Brown versus Valente Belloso. And then Wednesday is Jameson Taillon versus Ryan Weathers. And here is where I mentioned earlier the schedule obviously lightens up here a bit for the Cubs. You had that daunting schedule in April, which they came out of in a pretty good spot. It was 7 against the Dodgers, 7 against the Diamondbacks, 6 against the Padres. Like I don't know how many teams they've played. Is it maybe only the Pirates right now that are not over 500 that the Cubs have played? Like that might be the case here. So they've had a really tough schedule before this. But now, so I mentioned the 3 games against the Marlins at home coming up. And then they have the Crosstown Classic. They got the White Sox at Wrigley Field over the weekend. Then 3 in Miami, 3 in Cincinnati, 3 at home against the Rockies, 3 at home against the Reds, then 3 against the Nationals, and then is when they get the Tigers and Philly. So a little bit harder part of the schedule again. But that's a lot of games here against teams that, in all fairness, are just near the bottom of the league. The Reds, I think the Reds are better than I said earlier. They're 3.5 games back of the Cubs. Like I don't think they've played to their potential so far this year. I think they're a pretty good team, but they're not the Dodgers. They're not the Mets, right? Like they're not the team that the Cubs have been playing. I think those are good tests for where the Cubs are at in their division. But then the rest is, again, the White Sox, the Marlins, the Rockies, and those kind of teams. You'll ask like Craig Counsell or whoever, and they'll all say there are no, every lineup is tough. They're full of major league hitters, and to an extent that's true, right? Like these are lineups of major league hitters, and they can all give you fits on any given day. The White Sox, even in their horrible year last year, still found a way to win 41 games. Like, I mean, you can't expect to sweep all these teams, but you obviously hope. If you're a Cubs fan, if you're the Cubs, you're hoping that they come out of that in a really, really good spot. But that's the part of the lineup or the part of the schedule where you feel like the Cubs can truly take advantage. And when I said they got to figure out and start consistently putting some space in between them and the rest of the division, like this is that part of the schedule that they can find a way to do that. So we'll see how they go through the next few weeks with that schedule, but they do have 3 against the Marlins coming up. And, again, Colin Ray on Monday, Ben Brown on Tuesday, Jameson Taillon on Wednesday, and we'll see what the Cubs can do. They're in a good spot right here. They're still 5 games above 500, still in first place in the division. They have Cade Horton. I would say I believe that lines up Cade Horton for Friday against the White Sox, if I'm not mistaken. The Cubs haven't announced that probable yet, but I believe the way things are lining up, Cade Horton could make his first major league start on Friday against the White Sox. We'll see where that goes, but Cubs are in a good spot with a softer part of their schedule coming up, and we'll see if they can take advantage of it. But for the Addison the 35th podcast, I'm Ryan Herrera. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, rate, review, subscribe. Appreciate all the support. Would definitely appreciate even more than that. But again, for this Cubs episode of the Addison the 35th podcast, I am Ryan Herrera. until I believe we will have a crosstown episode with me and my guy Herb Lawrence that does the Sox shows. I believe we'll have a crosstown episode before Friday's game, Cubs Sox. But until then, y'all have a good one. Catch you later.